98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. What a wonderful day. Wednesday, the 5th of November 2025. This is the sound of Lagos, mainland 98.3 FM. Let's start the day with conversations as they affect us as citizens of the country. It's trends in the papers, and we would be looking at our dailies, picking out the most important stories as reported, analyzing them, giving you context, laying the proper foundation for broader discourse on national issues. We're talking politics, we're talking policies, we're talking all the changes that are going on in terms of the state of our economy, the decisions that are being made by those at the top, and how these decisions in a way cascade and influence our day-to-day living as citizens of the country. News is power, information is power, and so we have made it a responsibility to arm you daily with information that you need to make decisions as you go about your day. And what better way to do so if not to look through our newspapers and present to you what has been reported in these papers. Again, my name is Sage Babalola. Fuad should be joining us in another few seconds as we start flipping through the pages of our dailies. We have Punch, we have Vanguard, we have the Guardian newspaper in no particular order. I'd like to remind us once again that we are still offering you a lot of initiatives, seeing as the festivities are upon us. In another 60 something days, the festivities will fully be upon us. And as a station, we are deeply appreciative of what you have done from the very start of the year up until this very moment, all the resources that you have invested to participate on all the programs that are aired on this station. And that's why we've been doing what we can to engage you and reward you as we count down till Christmas. One of these initiatives happens to be the Bag of Rice initiatives, where you answer questions and you can win yourself a bag of rice for December, a full bag for one person, well, for you and your family. Yes. And so far we have started collating. I think the people with the highest scores are actually the people who listen to the morning show. They're the most active, and I'm super proud of that. But you can up your chance of winning when you actively participate in other programs. So even if you only listen to the morning programs, I ask that you please start listening to the afternoon and evening programs. That's the Launch Cafe and the Sunset Drive programs, because the more questions you answer, the better for you. You really cannot answer that more questions in the morning. Remember, you have to answer at least 40 questions. And so far, I think the highest person has only answered 7 questions. You're still about 33 questions shy of winning yourself that bag of rice. But before the bag of rice, we're still giving smaller packs of rice to listeners across different shows. I think the Boss had their winner. I think it's a 25 kg bag of rice. So congratulations to that winner. And on the morning show as well, somebody will still win a small bag of rice that they can use until, if they're lucky and they win themselves that bag of rice. So stay attentive, stay active, stay participating on social media, via calls, via message, and you just might be the lucky winner. But that aside, let's get into the primary discourse of the day. It's trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM. I'm Sage. Fuad is here. Good morning, Fuad. How are you?
Good morning, Sage. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Did you sleep well?
Yeah, of course I did. I hope you slept well too.
Yeah, perhaps. So, Fuad, we do have the Punch newspaper top story. 15% tariff. Nigerians to pay 1 trillion naira extra for petrol yearly. Nigerians will pay an additional amount of about 1 trillion naira, or roughly about 973.6 billion naira annually, on petrol imports following the federal government's planned introduction of a 15% import tariff on premium motor spirit, a price analysis conducted by the Punch has shown. Now, according to petrol imports trend report that was obtained from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, it was reviewed by the Punch on Tuesday. Nigeria imported an average of 26.75 million liters of petrol daily between January and September at a projected import tariff rate of 99.72 naira per liter, as stated in the presidential approval letter for 15% tariff. That means the amount spent on tariff for the 26.75 million liters will be about 2.67 billion daily. And if you compute this for a full year, it adds up to 973.64 billion, or approximately 1 trillion naira. So for the Punch has done calculation based on what the tariff has been. And if you consider this 15% increase in the tariff based on figures that they have, that means for the full year, if Nigerians go on ahead to pay that if the importers rather go on ahead to pay that 15% import tariff, that would be around roughly 1 trillion naira extra that Nigerians will have to pay. And the Punch is saying Nigerians will be the one to pay this because ultimately the importers would want to recoup their losses, so to speak, and they would increase the cost of PMS in a bit to cover for this extra tariff that they have to pay on importation. The federal government's defense is that this is meant to boost local production. This is supposed to be some sort of catalyst for the local market and to operationalize trade in naira, so we don't have to depend so much or put pressure on our currency looking for dollars to import. But then it becomes a conundrum when we very well know that the only functional refinery that we have in the country is Dangote Refinery, which is a privately owned enterprise. We don't have national refineries that are working, and so it does not benefit the country. It only benefits private refinery owners. We have Dangote, I think BOA is also coming upstream. So they think it is putting the cart before the horse. If we had functional national refineries, this would have been great. It would actually mean less pressure on the naira. Nigerians will buy the commodity for lesser because nobody would want to import the products into the country. But then you know that these marketers depend solely on imports, and so if they pay 15% tariff, Nigerians will be the ones to suffer for it. Fuad, what do you think about this initiative? Is it a good one but just counterproductive because of our reality?
Well,
yes.
Again, you can only determine how good a policy is in the manner by which it is implemented. Implementation itself is the key thing. You can have beautiful ideas, beautiful policies on paper, and then when you start to implement, you discover that, well, maybe it is right or wrong. So, ab initio, you might not necessarily say, oh, this is bad or this is right or wrong as a policy. But this idea of putting the cart before the horse seems to have been the pattern when it comes to policy implementation, especially under this government. Since you and I know that as we speak this morning, there are no clear indications that we are able to refine what we need locally. It's not really the only functional refinery we have in the country is the Dangote Refinery. And as we speak this morning, even though it keeps assuring Nigerians that, look, the refinery has got the capacity to meet our local needs, there's still nothing to confirm that as we speak. And for a lot of us, the easiest way to have domestic self-sufficiency in terms of refining petroleum products would have been for our other 4 refineries to be working as we speak, and then also support and encourage other private investors to work. So that this is 15% extra tariff, because there are tariffs already. Sage.
Yes.
It's not as if importers are not paying no manner of things before. So now this 15%, how are we sure that it's not going to be counterproductive? And like the marketers are already saying, look, you think that if the assumption is that with this, it will discourage people from importing and then force them to begin to look at patronizing the local refineries. The question is, do we have complete clarity as to the fact that the Dangote refinery can take care of our local needs? The danger again is this: should something happen to Dangote and is not able to function for some time, and there are no alternatives in terms of our capacity to refine locally, what then happens? So again, I think the government has a tendency of pushing through policies without thinking them through. They have a tendency for putting the cart before the horse. I think what the Punch newspaper is doing is to do the analysis, putting it on the front burner that this may all well just be about revenue generation. You can see that in the analysis they were just really talking about figures and what is going to come to the government at the end of the day. So whatever it is, the reality is that Nigerians should brace up. Like I asked you the last time, have we gotten any clear explanation from any quarter stage in the last 3 to 4 weeks how the price of petrol moved from around 860 naira per litre to 920, upwards of 1,000 in different parts of the country? Has anyone in that sector come out to explain to Nigeria what happened?
No, we You just assumed it was Dangote's lack of operation for a few days.
For a few days. So and then so now that he's about to, I did not started operation.
Well.
So why are we buying as we speak now? Why are we buying at 920, 950? Bigger the petroleum sector that we don't know about. There's something going on that we don't know about. Between Dangote, the NNPCL, the regulators, government, and everybody, a lot is going on that Nigerians are not completely aware of. But the reality is that the promise of this government, before they came to power, to Nigerians that they have not been able to fulfill that promise. And for us to continue to ask Mr. President, when will he fulfill that promise of Amadouale? I'm going to narrow it down to that, because if you are not careful, these oil sector issues will be facing. We don't even know where to stand. But we can stand on one thing, Sage.
Yeah.
And that is on the promise of the president. That's what? When is he going to fulfill the promise to Nigeria?
Well, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited are saying they have plans to raise its equity stake in Dangote refinery. They're hoping to do 20%. Initially, that was the plan until we found out that it was 7.5. But now the NNPC is saying they want to do that 20%. And they're currently looking for technical and equity partners for the non-functional refineries, so that these people can help. Yes, so these people can help them activate the refineries whilst they up their stake 20% in Dangote refinery.
So they are looking for technical and equity partners.
Yes.
So where is military?
Well, I mean, Ojulari.
Where are we on his case? Where are we on his case?
I don't know, for there's no information on that. He's just still being scrutinized for what had happened.
By scrutinized, what are these where we scrutiny all about? The man collected money from the government that will feed the refinery. He lied to Nigeria, took us there, did a show. And now it is confirmed that the refiners are not working. So shouldn't we be? By now, it should be having a day in court. And that's why, some of us just look at the UFCC and we just shake our heads. They've done 7,000 convictions, and none of them is a politically exposed person. None of them is a real government official. Because, look, and the reality is that, look, since Mr. Bayodilari came into this office too, he has confused Nigerians the more, because he doesn't seem to have been able to take a specific position on what he's going to do about the refineries. As we speak, Sage, what do you think is the position of Odilari about refineries?
I would like to assume he's thinking of ways to revive it. Again, it's an assumption.
He's thinking of reviving it. There was time he talked about the position of selling them off.
Well, that was rescinded, so.
So where are we now, Mr. Odilari? That's the question. Where are we really? Or maybe they are telling us services to forget that we have refineries. Maybe we just forget that those things even exist and move on with our lives. Maybe we go put on the stadium, come along that bomb.
I'm an hour for you.
It's looking like those things don't exist in reality. Maybe we are actually living in some form of illusion, or maybe we are being delusional that we actually have refineries. Maybe we don't even have refineries in reality.
I mean, we do.
It's possible.
We need the physical infrastructure, right?
Are you sure those things actually exist? That maybe going back on Lala, there's a way you think that you have something, you don't really have it.
Please, why? I don't have the energy for this.
So, but again, you can see where we are now. That was going to come up. The initial plan was to have 20% stake. So remember, I said, we're even bragging about it here. Oh, what do you mean?
It's you that was bragging,
I don't know. We were bragging now. I said that, but you really yourself. I remember, you do very sick. You have 20% stake. Until that came and told us, care about this. We are just about 7 point something, 7.2, 7.5. And and you know that the most ridiculous part of the entire thing was that the explanation given by military then is NNPCL as to why they didn't go ahead with the 20% stake. The 20% was not supposed to be just cash.
Yes, supply as well.
Yeah, it was supposed to be cruise supply.
Yeah.
Partly cash, I think about $1.5 billion was supposed to be cash, and the remaining $1 billion as think was supposed to be in terms of crude supply, granting crude supply. They rescinded on that. And the useless explanation military gave at that time was that, look, they had thought that it was best, or it was better for them to put that investment into CNG. You remember?
CNG,
that's what
at the end of the day now.
Where is the CNG? Okay, where are we on the CNG now? So we are now my mind now tells me, see, I don't know what the stake would be, what the equity would be, and the calculations are. To now get 20%, I doubt if it's going to be the old calculation. If you understand what I'm saying, if you are going to get the 20% now from Dangote refinery, my mind tells me that we'll probably be working with a new calculation. It can't be at the old price, at the old figure. Sorry. So it's all very untidy, very taxi. It looks extremely fraudulent, shady. You know, it even baffles one to know that the clumsiness, the fraudulent posturing that the late MK Abiola was talking about the NNPCL, witness in the operations of the NNPCL. That was an interview conducted as far back as 1992. And this morning, November was 2025. Almost 30 years down the line. We are still on that same issue. It's unfortunate.
Well, that is the situation. Dangote actually says he doesn't want to hold more than 70% of stakes in his company, that he's putting 10 to 15% stake on the market. So it's up for grabs right now.
You know what? So demand needs to raise some money. I'm sure that there are still financial obligations here and there. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? And, 75% stake in a business, you are still the owner. Even at 51%, you are still the owner of the business.
Yeah, still the
highest.
Because she has stakes.
Because once you pull out that your stake, the business goes down. Yeah. So even at 75% stake, is still in control fully. So of course, maybe a lot of information we don't have requires that it needs to raise money. There are still a lot of financial obligations here and there. So, but again, when will our refineries work? Do we still have refineries at all?
I believe so, for outside. That's the information regarding that is the front cover of the Punch newspaper. This is Trends in the Papers on Milan 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. For outside joins us via the phone to provide analysis. Let's move on to the story of the PDP, or well, the woes of the PDP. Wike kicks as Oyo Court lifts PDP convention ban. Now, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has dismissed Tuesday's ruling of an Oyo State High Court approving the People's Democratic Party's proposed national convention scheduled for Saturday and Sunday, November 15 and 16, 2025 in Ibadan. Justice Ladino Akitola granted the ex parte motion filed on Monday by Folahan Adelabi in a suit number and adjourned the case to November 10, 2025 for hearing of the motion on notice. The Oyo order contradicts last Friday judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja, which restrained the PDP from holding the convention. Now, Justice Omotosho had told the PDP to go back, put his house in order, and give the statutory 21-day notice to INEC before it can proceed with its proposed convention. But we have aggrieved PDP members who then approached the State High Court in Oyo State, and Justice Akintola granted all their interim orders and allowed for them to go on with their convention as planned. But Nyesom Wike, via his counsel, the argument is the court, media aid rather. I said, well, the judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja supersedes the judgment of the court, the State High Court in Oyo State. That what you have given is an ex parte order. A judgment supersedes an ex parte order.
That's what media aid is saying.
Yes, that's what the media aid is saying. This is not personal opinion. That's what the media aid is saying, that the ex parte order is subservient to a judgment from the Federal High Court, and so
and the maximum can only last for 14 days.
Yeah, so 7 days.
Or maximum 14 days.
It doesn't change anything as far as they are concerned. Yeah.
You see, you can now see that when it comes to political cases, I think that's one we can establish. Our politicians now know where to go and shop for judgment and ex parte orders. I mean,
yes.
Some are shopping at the Federal High Court. in Abuja, and then some go to different state courts to also shop. Mark my words, and I'm very serious about it. We are shopping for judgment and ex parte orders when it comes to political cases. And we have now lumped our judiciary into the confusion in the political space. And that's why it's already becoming a complete joke. Now, a federal high court judgment had come from, I think, last week Friday, saying that, look, there were requirements that should be met, even some of them tied to the constitution of the PDP, that are not being met, and so on that basis, a judgment came. A judgment of the federal high court came, telling the PDP to stop all actions towards going ahead with that elective national convention. Because the basis of the convention itself was to elect officials that will run the party going forward. And then, while you expect that the next move of people who will be dissatisfied with that judgment is to approach the appeal courts to either, get an order maintaining status quo or whatever. The lawyers maybe will say that. But again, we now got that they went to a state high court in Oyo. Who is the governor for your state again? Sorry, remind me.
Michael Jackson. I'm joking.
So our judgment, we are not trading getting judgments for right, left, and center. There are some in their domain. They go to federal high court, they get their judgment. So me too now, if I want a judgment, I go to here as a Lagosha. We can live in denial about it. The people can continue to deceive themselves. But you see, it's so concerning that we have now gotten to this point where we're already telling them that if you like, we'll go and get an ex parte order. Instead of you to go to the appeal, you are wasting your time. That if you go ahead with that convention, I know we've seen something like this before, Sage. If you remember on the entire River State matter, as the federal high court in Abuja was giving judgment, Fubara was also getting some judgments in River State high court. If you remember very well, on the entire River State episode, there were judgments that were coming on a similar matter from Abuja, federal high court. And then in the state high court, you are getting contradictory judgments too, or orders too. So until at the end of the day, the Supreme Court was giving the hammer and sorted everything out. Although it was not even sorted out completely by the Supreme Court, the president had to sort everything out. The president about Paris in his own way. So good luck to the PDP. Again, we'll see how this all ends. But I will say again that like Wike has said, because as it stands, I think when it comes to the PDP getting being revived, it has to be a call from Wike. Until they make Wike happy, I don't think that party can know peace. The question they have to ask themselves, the leadership of the party, now that they find themselves in this situation, is what exactly can they do to make Wike happy? And to Governor ᴏᴜᴛᴜ his friend in the old G5 formation, in a recent interview, said they have told him, Melembe. I also think that Governor ᴏᴜᴜᴜ should Melembe. They will bury that party the way they are going.
Well, that is also on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Let's move on to an update on the Nnamdi Kanu situation. The Guardian newspaper this morning is reporting court gives Kanu till tomorrow to defend terrorism charge or waive right. Well, tomorrow is today. That report was put out yesterday, but it's 5th. Now, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court has given the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, till November 5 to defend his terrorism charge against him or waive his right to do so. The judge pleaded with Kanu to consult with legal practitioners conversant with criminal laws to aid his defense or opt for a lawyer to handle his case. The decision followed Kanu's persistent refusal to present his defense to the terrorism charges on grounds that there was no valid charges against him. The IPOB leader, who had announced he would defend himself yesterday, told the court that he would not return to detention unless the charges against him were clearly presented to him. We know that Kanu had sacked all all of his lawyers, I think his entire legal counsel, and he had decided that he was going to defend himself. However, he has refused to open his defense on grounds that the charges in itself he has absolutely no case to answer. And there was also a Supreme Court judgment that had spoken about the illegality of how he was being extradited from Kenya to Nigeria. But Justice Omotosho has given him till today, November 5th, to either you open your defense or you completely waive your right to do so. That is the latest update on the Nnamdi Kanu trial.
Well, it is just an update, and we can't go subject on this matter. What the court is saying. I've seen people misinterpret the no case submission that had already been over by the courts that look, no case to answer. Open your defense.
Well, the connection is a little bad. We're struggling to hear you. I will disconnect and then call you right back. I think we should try that. Apologies. We really have no control over what happens with the connection. But this is still trends in the papers. Not to worry. Soon enough, we would open the phone lines. Just let us briefly get through the reports that we have on the front covers of our dailies. My name is Sage Babalola. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. So please join our live stream and you can contribute via thoughts using the live chat option. If we're able to take your comments as we move to mainland focus, we will take those comments. But even if we don't, it gives you an opportunity to interact with others who are speaking on the subject matter via our social media platform. Don't forget that even if you're outside the country, you can listen to us via Radio Garden. Just look for mainland 98.3 FM on Radio Garden and you would immediately connect with us. We're looking at the Punch newspaper at this time and we're getting Fuad's opinion on the recent development on Nnamdi Kanu's case. Remember, this is a case in court, so there's only so much we can say regarding the matter. But just so you know, the latest update on the situation is that he has been given till today to open his defense, or he should waive his right to do so. He's insisting that he has no case to answer, and so he will not open his defense. He should be discharged and acquitted. Fuad Said, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, please round off your thoughts on that matter.
So basically, the court is saying that, look, if you decide not to open your defense today, a judgment will come on this matter. I've seen senior lawyers, even some of them junior lawyers who are waiting on this decision of Nnamdi Kanu to first and foremost sack all of his legal team and then decide to go on ahead to say he was going to represent himself, only for him to approach the court to say, look, I have no case to answer, I'm not going to open any defense. I don't know whether he has any legal guidance, whether there are people talking to him on this. But for me, I don't know. We just have to wait to see what happens at the end of the day. But again, I think that, look, at the end of the day, this Nnamdi Kanu matter is better resolved. Looking for political solutions. But it is what it is. An update on the Nnamdi Kanu matter, we'll leave it at that.
Well, we're going back to the Punch now. U.S. eyes religious persecutors trial. China backs Tinubu. Following the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, the United States says it will work with the federal government to take decisive action aimed at arresting perpetrators of religious violence, protecting Christians, and rescuing those held hostage. The chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, Vicky Hartzler, whose recommendation led to President Donald Trump blacklisting Nigeria as a violator of religious freedom, disclosed this while welcoming the U.S. leader's decision. Hartzler, in a statement, commended Trump for taking steps to address what she described as the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. China, however, has voiced strong support for Nigeria and criticized what it called foreign interference in the country's internal affair. So, Fuad, China has decided to lend its voice to this situation. And by the way, we should know that the president has started working on ambassadors. I think that there's the final administrative stage that they have to go through before they are officially named. Well, in the coming days, we should have information about our ambassadors. Remember, 2 years ago, he had called back all foreign envoys and there were no replacements whatsoever. So we had no proper representation in all these other countries that we have relationships with. But I think in light of all the recent conundrums that have happened, we should have details of these ambassadors. But again, there's still the administrative process they have to go through. But back to the for China is saying the United States has no right whatsoever to interfere with a country's internal. It would be very, very active in the prosecution of anyone who is seen to participate in religious persecution or anyone who is making life insufferable for Christians in any part of the country. For China's stance on this issue, does it make that much of a difference? They can't do anything about it, really. All they can do is lend support verbally. Or is there something China's interference can do about this situation?
I don't think there's anything China can do. Again, this is just what you call a diplomatic statement. You know, as it stands today and as we speak, our foreign policy is non-aligned. We are non-aligned. We are neither on the west or the east. We are non-aligned. So what it means is that, look, we can decide to choose and not to, we decide to be our friends, and we have no friends, we have no enemies. It's basically about the interest of Nigeria, and that determines who we are friends with and who we are not friends with at a particular time. So again, you would understand that China again is one of the biggest trading partners to Nigeria. Again, you can see that there are people who also think that the reason why the U.S. is doing all of this is that, look, they also want a larger chunk, a larger part of,
like an inroad to Nigeria. So our relationship with China bothers the U.S. according to Jᴏɪɪ, for example.
And you can also see that, look, if you ask a lot of Nigerians now, China seems to be the business destination of choice for a lot of Nigerians now. So I don't know whether that's one of the reasons Donald Trump feels, that, look, he needs to, make an everything to Nigeria. But the reality is that, look, we expect China to also make diplomatic statements like this. But again, if Trump decides to intervene into whatever is happening in Nigeria, China cannot stop it. That I know. What they will do, the only thing they will continue to do is continue to issue statements, if you understand what I'm saying. It's just like, whatever Israel is doing in Palestine. You see that everybody just keeps issuing statements. They can't stop them. You understand? So if the United States decides to, come into the country, do whatever they want to do, the maximum we're going to get as support will be for these countries to continue to issue statements telling the U.S. to respect the sovereignty of Nigeria. Be that as it may, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding on this issue. And I think this misconception is deliberate. I talk a lot about perception.
Yeah.
And on this issue, it is not my job to make anybody happy. I'm not forcing anyone to accept my opinion about what the UN stands for when it comes to interventions in different parts of the world. You believe what you want to believe. You see what you want to see. Even if the facts show otherwise. So once you have decided to put that idea in your head, it might be difficult for anybody to help you out of your misconception. So I understand some of these things. The reality is that nobody is coming to help anybody. We just have to help ourselves. Several of these should have said that, look, it looks as if we might need to call for help. And if help is going to come from the U.S., why not? But there are ways this thing should be done. Whether we like it or not, Nigeria is a sovereign country. And being a sovereign country means that, look, we need to have the purchase of weapons. For example, I've seen people who have said that, look, Trump also expendable. I would expect that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu strengthens his diplomatic channel with the U.S., with President Trump. Leaders all over the world are already doing that because Trump is Trump. He's a different kind of leader, whether we like it or not. Very unique in his ways. He's a man that tells you that he wants deals. Come to the table, let's deal. So why can't we get on the table to deal with him? While we are doing that, it is also very important to tell our politicians to sit up. Without cracks in the wall, the ledger cannot go in. This is a popular adage. If you are not able to tidy your back end, Sage, outsiders will come and help you do it. And when they do it in a very terrible way. There's this popular saying in the Yoruba language. It is the mother's child. It is the mother of a child that will tell the child that, don't worry, you come back and meet me when the child offends her. Or if the mother tells an outsider to help him change the child, when you follow them.
Where where the line will be drawn when we have external help is something that is very blurry at the moment. How
very blurry.
do you
Yes.
control their operation?
How do you control their operations? And again, whether you like it or not, when it comes to things like this, you have to look at past precedents. That's what I'm saying. So yes, I'm with you.
You know, people would argue with the whole China-Taiwan situation that it's only the US that has been protecting Taiwan, and so maybe they are not always so bad when they interfere in disputes like this one in certain countries.
No, this is the issue. The US doesn't protect anybody without having their own vested interest.
I mean,
the same US.
Does anybody? It is always a reward for everything, right?
That's what I'm saying. So look, the reality is that whatever the US is doing with Taiwan in itself is to continue to, how do I put it, boss China around. If you understand what I'm saying, the things the US will not allow within their own domain, they do it to others. If you understand what I'm saying now, so think that Taiwan should not be part of the mainland China. If you understand what I'm saying, but the reality is that look, we need help, but there must be a method to the kind of help and how the help will come. Right. If you understand what I'm saying, it's not just to think that they'll come and bomb. I've seen people make comments on this and I just laugh. Oh, that they will let them come here. How? Come to where? Precisely. Where? How? Oh, they have intelligence about where these people are. Look, the most difficult war to fight is the war of guerrilla warfare. Yeah. Oh, why do you think the US, they have to abandon the people of Afghanistan to the Taliban that they had helped exchange out before? And to the point where when they were leaving, Afghanistans were not chasing their aircraft, jumping on it, some of them dying, because they knew that the Taliban were going to come after them. So we've seen how chaotic US interventions in things have happened before in the past, in Iraq, in so many other countries. So we are not saying we don't need help, but it is not to come in the way Trump is putting it. And then for those who are arguing about Christian genocide, Muslim genocide, the reality is that Nigerians are dying. Like I told Lady Mo yesterday, and I think I told you on Monday too. Yes, there are targeted killings. We cannot deny the fact that in some parts of the country, Christians are being targeted. The same way Muslims are also being targeted. I talked about Deborah. I talked about many of the killings in the north central part of the country. Do you know, Sage, that in a state like Zamfara, in a state like Sokoto, it is not even about people who are not from that part of the country. You have the Hausas, you have the Fulani, for example, in Zamfara. You have them in Sokoto, you have them in Kano. Do you know that most Hausas in this part of the country are actually farmers, while the Fulanis are elders? Yeah. So it's not even about the north central part of the country alone when it comes to these killings. So, you see, again, while some of us have this perception, this sentiment running in our head about what is going on in the country, I think we have to be very, very careful. On the edition go back to WHO:s Lomba, you help me interpret that.
I don't understand.
People have
Let's look at the final part of this report.
Okay. People should be very careful really, on the kinds of help they are looking for. There are some help that throws you into more trouble than help you resolve your problems.
All right. Well, as we begin to round off this conversation for our Senator Natasha once again accused immigration officers of seizing her passport on the order of Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Again, this is an allegation that it had happened before. Remember, at the heat of the accusations that happened when she had accused him of sexual assault and the plot to have her assassinated in Kogi State, at the heat of that, her passport was seized a couple times and she was not allowed to travel. And she's insisting again that even now her passport was seized and she wasn't allowed to travel. But immigration had clarified it. They said that the holding on to her passport for a bit was part of routine, that they do their routine checks. Sometimes it might lead to them having to hold on to your passport a little longer than usual, but that after they did their routine check and all, she was indeed allowed to travel. That's their defense.
So a routine check on a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That's
when these spokespersons talk, they talk as if we are dummies. We don't know what we be part of 괰ᴜ. So they just open their mouth and say so. It's even better that they even keep quiet. The reality is that there seems to be a deliberate harassment, intimidation of this woman. It's quite obvious. What is the routine check that will make you now see her passport and delay her to the point where she has to put out a video? What does it take? The process of checking, the process of going through to travel. She's not a first-time traveler. She's not a person of particular concern, of interest. She's a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then you say, oh, after maybe the DSS check or something, you got to the immigration and they took her passport away. And
we have to go. But that's the update. The immigration is saying she was allowed to travel.
Eventually they allowed her.
Yeah.
So she really be woman to live her life. She's a married woman.
For side, we need to go.